Hi, I'm Gloria White. Today is August 11, 2023. I'm here with Craig Campobella, and this video is sponsored by the Heritage Museum of Montgomery County in Texas. Hi, Craig. How are you?
Good, Gloria. Thank you.
Good to see you. Hey, were you born in Montgomery County?
No, I was born in Harris County.
Okay. So tell us about growing up in Harris County. How was that?
Well, we came to Montgomery County a lot, and we came to Tomball. Back when I was a kid down in South Houston, Tomball was like going to Australia, and my grandfather had some friends up there, so we go to Tomball, and we came through Conroe a couple of times. As a matter of fact, I-45 when I was born wasn't here running through Conroe. I think it was in the early '60s when they started it. So, but it was your kind of normal, like Leave It to Beaver kind of deal. In that part of Houston at the time, moms on the front porch with their aprons waiting for the kids to come home, and you could walk 2 or 3 blocks from school and nobody worried about it. And Little League baseball, that kind of thing. Just, I would say, perfectly normal.
Okay, so that was in South Houston, right?
Not South Houston as we know, like South Houston, the suburb, but it was like Belfort and Winkler, right in that area, right there.
Okay. So you went to school, elementary and high school in that area down in Houston too?
No, my parents divorced during the Summer of Love, and I wound up on my grandfather's peanut farm.
Okay.
Not even in a town, but in Central Texas.
Oh, okay.
And he raised peanuts and a little bit of maize, and they had big gardens. And my life went from a close to downtown Houston boy, to a peanut farmer's grandson overnight.
Overnight, okay.
And spent the next 10 years in that area. And I went to a barbecue and met this guy that was my age, and his father had a radio station. And
so what age were you at that time?
18.
18, okay.
It was the summer of my right after graduation from high school. As a matter of fact, it was a couple of weeks, because I think it was July the 4th celebration. Anyway, the guy that owned the radio station, my friend's father, had a little bit too much July 4th celebration, and hired me for the radio station.
Right out of high school, huh?
And he hired me. He liked the way that I sounded, and I went to work for him. And I had to go to Dallas to pass these. It's called Element 1, Element 2, and Element 9 that you had to do back then. And I failed Element 9, and he fired me 2 weeks after he hired me. I guess he also must have sobered up a little bit. And I wound up, I just drove to the next town, and that gave me a job.
In radio?
In the radio station.
Okay.
So I just started doing radio, and I loved it. And that was back in the day when you could actually make money doing it. And just had a ball, and it was a creative atmosphere all the time. And then it was radio that brought me back to this area.
Okay. So so what area did you come back to?
From
you was in, you said, a town called a small community.
Yeah. It was Breckenridge, Texas.
Okay.
It started in Eastland, Texas. They've got all those little towns, and when you gather them together, it's a good-sized town, or listenership, especially if you're just starting out. And from there, it took me to Breckenridge, and then took me to Midland, Odessa. I did radio in Houston, and just kind of stuck with that.
Okay. So after you finished, you was in radio. So once you finish your radio career, what did you do? How did you do? What did you do? Anything? Did you stay in radio?
Yeah, pretty much from 1976 to 2006.
2006. Okay.
Yeah. But back in the 80s is when I started sculpting.
Okay, so back in the 80s. So where were you? Were you on the radio then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you started sculpting in 2006, you said?
Nope. That's
sorry.
when I stopped radio.
Oh, you stopped radio. Okay, when did you come to Montgomery County?
2004.
2004, okay.
Yeah, so that's what, 18 years now.
Okay, so what brought you to Montgomery County?
Local radio station.
Okay, so you was at K-Star?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're good friends with Mary McCoy? Uh-huh. Oh,
She was the first person that befriended me. That's why it's so wonderful that I'm getting to do a sculpture of her bust.
oh, okay.
Right.
So talk about that experience when you came here. And
Let's
you got to work
clarify that. In sculpture, bust means from here up. Okay.
Okay. So talk about that experience working with her when you got to Montgomery County.
Well, I didn't know anybody. I knew the one guy, but they gave me like an overnight shift. And the guy that hired me was the early morning newsman, Mike Shiloh. And we hardly saw each other. I didn't know anybody. I was basically thrown on the board and sink or swim. And my second night there, this woman with the biggest smile that I'd ever seen in my life came walking in with some chicken salad and some homemade bread. And she stayed there with me for 2 hours and just chatted and just talked. And then she hurt her foot. And then I offered to drive her around to all of her appointments and stuff. And then she invited me over to her house to have dinner, and with her and her husband. And we just became, close friends. And then I was just thrilled to death when I got a phone call a couple of months ago saying, would you be interested? I was like, what do you mean, would I? Of course. So it kind of went full circle. Yeah. It happened just as we were moving out of Conroe over to Montgomery. So I thought, well, how fitting is that?
Yeah.
That's just part of that story, kind of wrapped up, tied to a nice little knot.
Okay. So how long did you stay out there at radio once you got here in Montgomery County?
Well, it's probably almost 3 years.
3 years.
Probably,
Okay.
yeah.
So after you finished doing the radio career, what did you do next? I understand that you also did some working with the local theaters also here in Montgomery County.
Yeah, that's all volunteer work. It wasn't like I did radio until 2006, and then I stopped that and started sculpting. I started sculpting way back in the 80s. And so I don't know if anyone noticed, but radio has changed a lot when we were kids, right?
Yes, it has.
And there was a thing called consolidation where people were able to come into towns and buy up all the radio stations. They used to couldn't do that. So competition didn't matter anymore. It was just like selling beans off of a shelf somewhere. We own 5 stations. We'll sell you all of these ads for this much money, right? No. So it was spread across. So we were losing 500 radio jobs a year in Texas from 1994, 95, and it's just about down to the bottom of the barrel. And this local radio station is one of the very few left. I think they're staffed still 24/7. They may be automated overnight, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So that was K-Star.
Yeah. So the radio salaries started going down. Right. And it got to the point where a couple of $100 made a big difference. And while that was going down, my sculpture sales were going up. So I decided to jump off the one going down and jump onto the one that was going up. And I like to starve to death the first year, but it started picking up and picking up. And I've been very, very blessed.
So how did you your first sculpture? I'll ask you that question. But how did you decide, okay, I want to try this, or you have always had that something you want to do sculpture?
Yeah, I've always been involved in the art world. My mother was an amateur oil painter. My aunt was a pro-am oil painter, and she also had a small art gallery. And so I was around it a lot. I started drawing when I was a kid. I'd ride in the back seat. Remember the cartoon strip called Andy Cap? the little guy from England or somewhere, and he wore the
Baseball cap?
He wore the little hat like that, and he was always getting into trouble. Well, I would draw him from the cartoon pages onto my mother's stenograph pad.
Okay.
And whenever we go somewhere, and I got pretty good at it. And then I started taking art, and I was pretty good at it, and just kind of went on. And then I got kind of bored with it, and it was. I don't remember the exact year now, but it was in the 80s, and my mother hadn't painted anything for about 10 years. I took her to an art store because I wanted her to do 3 oil paintings for me.
Okay.
To put in my home, and she didn't have any equipment left. She didn't have any brushes or canvases or anything. So I took her to this big art store, and I said, "Get you 3 canvases and whatever you need, and I want you to do these paintings for me." So she said, "Okay." Well, I forgot that anywhere store she goes on to, it's going to be about 4 hours before she comes out, because she's one of those people that picks up everything and looks at it and says, So she's making her way through hundreds of aisles, picking out just exactly what she wants. And I'm sitting out in the car and back and forth and wondering what. Well, about the 4th hour, I went in there and I was just walking around, and I saw some self-drying clay. And I picked it up, and I went out to the car and I opened it and started messing with it, and I closed it back up. Well, that night when we got home, I just got it out and I did a little rock with an Indian sitting on it, with the wind blowing through his hair and a blanket around him, and I set it up on my mantle. And it's about a week later, this guy named Tom, there was a friend of mine who was working with, he worked for Ross Perot. They were figuring out how to do these Zoom call type things back before there was such a thing. And he said, "Where'd you get that?" I said, "I made it." He goes, "No, you didn't." I said, "Yeah, I did." He goes, "How much?"
Oh, he offered to buy it.
He offered to buy it from me. I said, "Hold on, let me check with my staff." Yeah, that'd be fine. He said, "How much?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "How about $50? $50 in the mid '80s is $350 now, right?" I said, "That'd be fine." And he gave me $50, and he went off with my little sculpture. I went back and I bought some more clay, and I started doing buffalo heads and noses and hands and little soldiers and all that stuff, and it was the most fun that I'd ever had, ever. It felt like. Have you ever, during your life, met somebody, and the minute that you look into their eyes and they smile and you say hi, it's like you've known them all your life? That's what it was with me and the clay. And I have not stopped.
Oh, wow. So your first piece, you just picked it up because your mom was in the store. That's a very good, interesting story. She was in there 4 hours, and you said, and you made this little thing. Somebody come to your house and they buy it. So, and you've been doing it ever since. So after you did that sculpture, and you started.
I'm still doing radio.
You're still doing radio. So you're still doing radio. So when did you actually stop doing radio and say, "I'm gonna stop doing radio and I'm just devote my time"?
The end of 2006.
2006. Okay. So
I'd already been doing sculpting like 20 years.
20 years. Okay.
Right. And selling.
And selling. You were selling. And so what was your first commission piece?
Well,
I don't know if you.
You mean where somebody came to me and said, "Will you do this?"
Yeah.
Probably. The Texas Lady Liberty, the gold one, over there at the old Spirit of Texas Bank.
Tell us about that. How did that?
Well, Dean Bass, who's the president and CEO of Spirit of Texas, had a real unique take on banking, and I think they called it low volume, high touch. You walk in, everybody knows your name. And he really loved all the Texas history stuff, and he just said, "Come up with something." And I said, "Well, nobody's done the lady off the San Jacinto battle flag yet that I know of." And he goes, "I kind of like that. Bring me some ideas." So I did, and he liked some of it and didn't like other parts of it. And then my wife and I made a trip to New York City, and we were up by the Bethesda fountain. And he calls, and I go, how about the lady off the San Jacinto battle flag, and then we'll have an archangel down here and archangel down here, and there'll be water coming towards her. She'll be about 4 foot tall, all that stuff. And he didn't like that. He said, let's go as big as the Texian. Mm-hmm. And I kind of choked for a second. I said, okay, that's a lot of work. And then a couple of more days went by, and I was in one of the museums there in New York, and I saw a gold gilded bronze piece. Mm-hmm. And I went, that's just about as beautiful as I've ever seen. And I called him, I said, how would you like to gold gild it? And he goes, I don't think I've ever seen one. And I said, well, look them up. And he did, and we got back together, and he goes, you know what, I think I want to do that. I think I want to do that. She deserves that. And so we got the gold from the Manetti family in Florence, Italy, that have been doing it since the High Renaissance, you know, the Palace of Versailles, the Vatican. Gold beaters is what they're called. And it took about 43 days and nights to put all of that, and it's 23.75 karat gold. It's pure, and it doesn't oxidize. It'll never rust. It'll never oxidize. It's just still remains beautiful to this day. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. Yes, I've seen it several times. So once you put the clay part, you did the clay work on there, and then you put the gold on top.
No, it has to be cast into bronze.
Cast into bronze. Okay.
Right. And then you put the gold over the top of the bronze.
Okay.
But you have to do special paint, special clay paint, 2 layers of that, and then you sand that down, each layer, let it breathe, and then you've got this special glue that's made from rabbits that comes from France. Right, and then the gold comes from Italy. Then you've got these special little brushes, which are the tail of a black squirrel in Germany.
Wow.
So it's an international affair, right? So we got all the best tools and things that we could get for it. And
it's a beautiful piece standing there. I see it because I pass that way quite several times a week.
Yeah, Dean had a big vision, and he followed through with it. And it's they have still every day people come by and take pictures with that. So
after you did that, and I know you've done some sculptures also in the Founders Park. I know you did Dave Parsons. You did his sculpture. He was Texas Port Laureate. And then you also did Annette Gordon Reed. She's a local, she's a historian and a professor. So Pulitzer Prize winner. Yeah, Pulitzer Prize winner. Yeah, she was here a couple of years ago. And so I know you have a lot of work in the Conroe area. You also have it's the Texan at the flag part. Yeah, talk about that Texan.
Well, you know, the Texian, how that whole thing started was about around 2006, I think. And I was driving down the I-45 before they elevated, and I looked over in the area there, and I just saw all these flags, kind of like a vision type thing, you know, not like a biblical type one, but I was just like, ooh, that'd look nice. And I sketched it out, and I got home, and then I called this gentleman named J. Ross Martin, and I met him that night, and I said, you know, it's great to run a Texas flag up the flagpole and say birthplace of the Lone Star flag or birthplace of the Texas flag. I said, but why don't we do something where we can educate the public, like an outdoor museum or an outdoor library, and you have the Texas flag, this is how it's ended, right? But let's back our way back all the way to how did it get to that, and tell that story. Because it encompasses everybody. I don't know if you've been to the San Jacinto battlefield, but if you look on one of the side walls, the people that were a part of that come from every nation on earth, every race, creed, color, we're all a part of it. Excuse me. So I told him, and he got all excited, and he was jumping up and down at 11 o'clock at night because we were eating crawfish. And when I told him about it, he wanted to go over there immediately. And then it all started, you know. And then there's a couple of groups that started saying, well, what if we did this and what if we did this, and I knew that it was the vision of telling the story is the one that needed to be, and it needed to be beautifully done, easily traversed, with the story broken down or it could turn into, like one of the people wanted to make it a little wandering trail through the woods where there's a flag here and this, and then they got a lot of steam on that too. So it got kind of rough. Excuse me. It got kind of rough a couple of times, but fortunately, it was the idea was, protected by something larger than me, and I was able to get folks from both sides of the aisle interested and involved, and not only that, excited and determined. And every time that something came up against it, there were people there to fight back. And you see what we ended up with.
Beautiful
It's been on telephone books, it's in restaurants, it's all over the place. People make special trips to come and see it. The maintenance hadn't been what I hoped it would be, but they'll probably get around to that at some point.
Okay. So also, I was reading something about you, and another thing I didn't know that I remember Dr. Red Duke, because he used to always have a medical report, and then he always ended. He had this cap on, had the mustache.
It's
He's Dr. Red Duke.
Yeah.
And you also did a bust a sculpture for him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I was real excited. Well, the guy that originally was going to do it passed away, and some time went by, and they got my name somehow and came and asked me, and I said, let me check with my staff. Yeah, that'd be fine. And we did like this 3-foot bust. If you did it full size, it'd be like over 9 feet tall. And I started working, and I just could not believe that I was getting to do Dr. Red Duke. Because when you're a kid, growing up, especially in this area, he's just part of the furniture.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of like Mattress Mac.
Yeah.
And what was that guy's name? Marvin Zindler.
Marvin Zindler, yes.
They were just larger
Marvin
than
Zindler, Witness News, yeah.
Yeah. They were larger than life figures. And so, we sat down, and I was with this big group of people with their ties on, and all the ladies all dressed up and stuff, and I was kind of dressed like this, and we were all kind of sitting there looking at each other. And I said, well, we come from 2 different worlds. Let me tell you how I'd like to do this if I was choosing how it was going to be done. And they said, what's that? And I said, I just want to deal with one person. I don't want to do this by committee. So they gave me that one person, and I remember them coming up to Conroe from Houston when I finished the clay. And there's about 5 of them, and the guy, his stood on the left side of him, right? The specialized nurse or operations nurse or whatever. Big old tears started coming down his eyes. He said, I used to take the hair off of his ears right there before surgery, up here on the top where it was growing. And big old tears are coming down his eyes, and I thought, bingo. So now they've got one up there where the flights take off, and they've got another one down in the atrium.
Wow.
Right, so the pilots come by
and see it.
Give it a little pop.
I thought that was real interesting too, because I know you've done several sculptures, and I know I think it's Marty Stewart. Yeah, talk about that too. Talk about that one. He's a musician, right?
Yeah, he's won.
How did that come about?
5 Grammy Awards. Yeah. Willie Nelson's won 3.
Would you like to do a Willie Nelson?
Well, of course I would.
Yeah, I know you would.
Of course I would. Well, Marty was in Conroe with his band, the Fabulous Superlatives. And I was in J. Ross Martin's abandoned furniture store right there by Brownlee's Jewelers, down there, that 2-story one. No, one outlet, no heating, no air conditioning. I was working in the cold of the winter and the heat of the summer.
With one outlet.
and northern-facing windows, right? And one outlet that I'd hang a light down if I needed to work at night. So I was doing this cross-promotional thing about the arts, visual arts and performing arts. And I had one of my pieces set up over there in the Crichton Theater. And after Marty's show, Marty was signing autographs, and I could see him every once in a while look up over at my table, which is probably about 15 yards away from his. Every once in a while, I'd see him look up over there. When it got done, they came over, and Marty goes, I saw in a building right over here downtown this looked like a cowboy or something. Do you know the guy that's working on that? And I said, yeah. You want me to go get him for you? And he said, yeah. And I said, how you doing? and we had a big laugh, and he said, listen, I'm going to go get out of my work clothes. Do you mind if me and the boys come over? And I said, come on. So one light now, right?
One light.
We opened the back doors, and they came down the alley, and they came in that back door, and those lights from that parking lot were coming in through the door, and all you could see is their silhouettes, and it looked like Tombstone. And here they come walking down there, and Marty sat there for 45 minutes just thinking I'm talking to the guys in the band, and I'm letting all of them put little pieces of clay, which I let everybody in town do, put a little piece of clay wherever they wanted on there. And he asked me a couple of questions. He said, well, come on then, which was like a secret language, was come on, get involved with what we're doing. And I found that out from another guy named Mark Taylor, who had done all that stuff all of his life. And Marty invited me to get on the bus with him, not that night, but down the road, and just go on a little, a couple of days out, a couple of days back. He wanted to talk about some projects possibly. So I did, and we just struck up this great friendship. And once again, J. Ross Martin, who I mentioned earlier, wanted me to do a little maquette of Marty. So I did the maquette and took it up to Nashville for Marty to okay it. And he just loved it. And then it started evolving into the 7.5-foot piece through the people that are working with Marty to do his Congress of Country Music. And if you got any time, go look up Marty Stewart's Congress of Country Music in Philadelphia, Mississippi. He owns over 20,000 country music artifacts.
Wow.
From Hank Williams' handwritten lyrics that you have to look at with the little white gloves, the boots Patsy Cline died in. The list goes on, and on Hank Williams' guitar, Porter Wagner's first nudie suit. It just goes, the boots that Patsy Cline died, did I tell you that? Her makeup case, Jimmy Rogers' traveling trunk, the father of country music. It just goes on like this forever. The largest privately held collection. So they're building this big museum, right? And the piece that I did, called The Pilgrim, which represents him at the turn of the last millennium. He did an album called The Pilgrim. So that's what I focused on. If you look at the piece and you turn your phone on to The Pilgrim Act 3, you'll listen to what I listened to while I was doing the sculpture of it. And it's just been a great friendship. He's actually one of the only true Renaissance men that I've ever met in my life. Everything he does is top notch, and it's been a real highlight to be able to
So
work with him.
you mentioned J. Ross Martin. My husband and I knew J. Ross, so you and J. Ross were real good friends then.
We got pretty close. We fought on the same team together, and dreamed a lot of the same dreams. He had more probably skin in the game because he spent a lifetime loving Conroe. I was a latecomer to that. I'm still the new kid in town after being here for almost 20 years. But it was fun to help however I could.
So also when you was in the, you volunteered with was the Crichton and was the Crichton Theater?
Yeah, both the theaters, yeah.
So tell me about the Monty Awards. I was told you were the one got that started.
Well, there were some people that had been trying to do it forever, and there was another group of people telling them they're not going to do it. And so the ones that said you're not going to do it are the ones that won for years and years and years. So I sat down with some of them and I said, what's the problem? I said, well, they don't want us to do it. And I said, well, they can find something else to do because we're going to go ahead and do it. And we went ahead and did it. And the very first year we got $1.2 million worth of earned media off of that thing, which was the whole idea behind it.
Explain the Monty Awards.
Well, it's a knockoff of the Academy Awards, and we did this little drama and tragedy mask, right? Or comedy and tragedy mask, and we did best actor in a comedy, best actor in a play or drama, and we did best wardrobe and all that. And everybody, they were required to wear tuxedos and evening gowns, and we had a 13-piece orchestra, and we had the best performances of the year, singing songs from their shows, and we had new people that are just new to the theater being presenters or whatever, and we just went all the way, and we had all these great sponsors, and it just was packed every year. And the whole idea behind it wasn't to, there was a greater mission hidden in it than just getting around giving each other awards. It was to promote what's going on in downtown Conroe. We got 2 theaters, we got all these music venues, we got all of this stuff, and you can't buy the kind of publicity that I mean, the city wouldn't have given us $1 million to go out and advertise it, but we got that. There was a PR firm out of Houston, like rated number 8 in Houston or whatever, that sent us the info. How'd y'all do this? Right? So it was just some of these kids, on the internet that knew how to hit the right buttons and get it out there, and then the newspaper advertising, and then some television spots, and but it served a really good purpose. And then me and my wife had a baby, and my time became much more precious, and I wasn't able to handle it anymore.
Okay. So tell us about your wife. How long have y'all been married?
Oh, well, it's 13 years.
13 years. Yeah. And you have a
6-year-old girl.
Okay.
Bristol Mandolin Campobella.
Okay. So what did y'all get married at? Here in Conroe?
At the Flag Park.
Oh, it's Flag Park.
Because, the venue that we had picked wasn't ready. Okay. So I happened to know somebody. And we rented out the Flag Park.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that was pretty cool.
It wasn't meant to be that way, but that's what had to be done.
Yeah, but you did what you had to do.
Right.
And so, is she an artist also?
Well, I think she is. I think she is. She is like an event planner, and she can put all this kind of stuff together and make it look. I couldn't do that.
Okay.
The way that she does it. So she's that kind of artist, and she's done some like 2D work and stuff like that. But she's not a full-time artist.
Okay.
But,
one thing you mentioned, you were saying when Marty and his guys came to your studio, and you said they were putting you let people put clay on your
Texian, yeah.
Texian, okay. So people just come in and you just let them put some clay on there? Okay.
I had to scrape it off if it didn't work.
Okay, so so they feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so help you do it. Okay.
Right.
But so when you...
There's kids now that were 10 years old that are 20 now that come back to look where they put that little piece of clay on the knee.
Okay.
You know, it stick with them forever.
And I know, I think is it the Texans, the one that's the one over here at the
Flag Park. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that has like it has buttons on it? It has so many stones. Tell us about the stones and the buttons.
If I can remember, I'll tell you.
Okay, if you can. Okay.
There's 17 buttons on there for. Wait a minute. There's 13 stones under the left foot that signify the 13-day siege at the Alamo. There's 9 stones, the back foot, to represent the 9 men that we lost at San Jacinto. Then under the right big toe is another stone it's making his foot turn like this, uncomfortable, is the Santa Ana stone, right? Because he was a pain in their behind for the next 20 years. Then the sash and the little tie represent Alpha and Omega. When you stand off like 5 o'clock, you can tell. And then I forget about the buttons on his shirt.
I don't know if it was 18 or 17.
Oh, the 17-minute battle.
Yeah, yeah.
No, wait, 18-minute battle. 18 minutes?
But I know
Yeah, 18 minutes. Yeah, it was 18 minutes at San Jacinto. So, yeah, I had to take one button off, right? And there's 2 strings flying. So it would represent that. And there's some more stuff. Texas Lady Liberty has the same thing on it. Not the same kind of stuff, but a lot of symbolism in there. People can look at it. It's been a decade now, so I don't remember.
So I know you have a website, and because I went to your website to look at some of your artwork. So is there? Probably shouldn't have. It's probably hard for you to answer this question, but is there any piece that you've done in the past that you just is your favorite piece, or you just really? I know you probably enjoy doing them all, but anything that just stands out particularly that you just really love doing the sculpture work for, putting the piece together?
Well, there's a piece called Defiance that I did that's about 3 feet tall. It's got 5 men in it, and it's the come and take it scene where the 100 Mexican dragoons and Gonzales are coming over the hill to come take this little cannon, little 10-pounder, I think it was. Like I said, I haven't reviewed it in a while. But there's all these different nationalities there, just like it really was.
So where's that piece at?
Well, they're private.
A private piece?
Private,
private.
yeah. But you can see it on the website.
Okay, I saw it on the website, yeah.
Yeah. But they got the come and take it flag flying over the top. It's got the little cannon. It's got all these people that represent different nations and states that helped fight during the Texas Revolution. Just as far as storytelling goes, that's one of my favorite. And then there's a piece I did about the Alamo with William Barrett Travis. You know, he's dying, hanging on to Cannon Will, and Davy Crockett's jumping over the top of the cannon, and there's soldados all around him. I like those a lot, and both of them wound up at the Booth Museum in Cartersville, Georgia, which has been rated the #1 Western museum in the United States for the last 3 years in a row. So I was very honored to have those 2 pieces there. You know, when you have a piece here and a Remington right behind you on the wall, it makes you feel pretty good.
So you've done a lot of amazing sculpture work, and you got a chance to meet a lot of different people doing that. So you tell your stories through sculptures, and what advice can you give to other inspiring artists on this journey? I know you love it because it's got to be something that you love.
Well, it's hard. It's not easy. And I'm not looking for sympathy because I made my mind up to do it. But what I have said before, I'm not sure if I believe it anymore, but I'll say it again, is discourage them to not do it.
I gotta laugh.
Yeah. just jump on them and say, do not do this. And here's the reason I say that. Because if it's in them, they're going to do it anyway. And they're going to try just as hard. If you see some real talent there, and encourage them, but how many people do you see audition for, The Voice or whatever, and they really can't sing, but Aunt Jody or whoever has told them how great they are, and then they get there and they get crushed. It's just got to really come bubbling up from the inside of you. I knew it when I touched it that it would always be a part of my life.
The first piece you did.
Yes, and I wasn't all that great, but it was great enough where my very first piece I did sold in 5 days, and he didn't know where it came from, and he liked it. And then I did a cross with a dove on it, and it was 8 inches wide. 8 stands for rebirth, and 12 inches tall, perfect government, and all this different symbolism inside of it. And that was my first bronze piece. So it's infinitely interesting to me, and I have met some really cool people and some dreamers, and some people that really want to follow through, because this is like buying a new house in some cases. These things are can get very expensive in a hurry, because so many people are involved in having to make it. It's just not some little,
just you by yourself.
This little guy running around. You got to first, you got to sculpt it. You got to build an armature. You got to know the weight of the thickness of the clay, and make sure all the dimensions, and it's interesting to look at from 360 something degrees. And then you got to take it to the foundry, and they make a wax, and these experts are building this wax up, and then they got to dip it in this slurry, and they got to build it up, and then burn the wax out, and then pour the bronze, and then break the casing off, and then weld it all back together seamlessly, where you can't even tell where the welders touched it. They put all that back together, and then they put the patina on it, and then they build a base for it, and then we got to haul it up there. I guarantee my work for 3,000 years. And after that, we'll replace it for free.
That's good. That's funny. Yeah, you're funny. Is there anything else you would like to share before we are in our interview?
No, thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and all the work that you do, and your fantastic sculptures.
Well,
thank you so much. God bless you.
You too.